The latest update on the injury list for the 2022 NBA season is that of Minnesota Timberwolves power forward Karl-Anthony Towns, who was forced to leave the court when playing against the Washington Wizards. So how long do you think this injury is gonna sideline him? And is this going to affect the Wolves' next games? Also in this video, we'll discuss the top 10 most devastating injuries in the history of the NBA. Starting us off, Karl-Anthony Towns' injury update, and what does this injury mean to the Minnesota Timberwolves? Cat hasn't had a great season thus far, as the Wolves strive to figure out how Karl-Anthony Towns fits next to their significant summer signing Rudy Gobert, and also make sure guys like Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell can keep their on-court output the same. Everyone agreed they would become a good regular season club, even if the Gobert deal was very contentious. That hasn't occurred yet, and may be postponed forever, after Cat suffered a horrifying-looking calf injury against the Washington Wizards that might keep him out for a few weeks. Fans have hypothesized that Cat may have hurt his Achilles, but all news reports after the incident suggest that he only has a calf strain, as we witnessed with KD in the 2019 NBA Finals, when he came back from his calf injury a bit too soon. Calf strains may develop into serious Achilles issues before anybody notices. This injury might either be beneficial or detrimental. Cat's season averages have been 20.8 points, 8.2 rebounds, and 5.3 assists. Although this output is acceptable, Karl-Anthony Towns is anticipated to be the team's top scorer. The goal of bringing in Gobert was to alleviate Cat's defensive strain so he could concentrate on scoring, but it has yet to succeed. Gobert is the only big man of starting caliber in Cat's absence. Thus, Chris Finch may be able to devise strategies that provide room for Anthony Edwards and other guys to shine. Excellent backup center Naz Reid has the potential to make a big impact right now. On paper, losing Karl-Anthony Towns is a devastating setback for the Wolves, but still, they can use their resources to develop more creative strategies for playing that might even result in a victory. Next up, the top 10 most devastating injuries in the history of the NBA. The 10th on the list is Joel Przbilla's knee. The significance of this one is revealed not what by the knee does, but by Joel Przbilla's reaction. Przbilla appears to be in pain when he hits the ground, since his knee appears to be entirely locked. It doesn't seem too serious though. We quickly discover, however, that it is. His body is pierced with pain as he's knocked off his feet, and he has no choice but to fall as he crashes on his right leg. Przbilla's patella burst and dislocated as a result of the landing. "I knew it was pretty severe when it happened," Przbilla said. "My leg was stuck in a funny position. It didn't hurt, but I could tell something was not right." He was out indefinitely for that season. Then we have Josh Howard's knee wobble next on the list. The worst aspect of watching a video of an accident isn't always how horrifying it is. Sometimes it's just how it makes you remember how awful seemingly insignificant things like your knee turning in the wrong direction can feel. Everyone in the arena groans when they see a rolled ankle. Since everyone has experienced that anguish before, we can sympathize for the most part. Josh Howard's 2010 knee injury in Chicago resulted from this, making it simple to understand how painful it was for him. Although most of us have never experienced a knee sprain severe enough to necessitate surgery, we have all experienced a slight wobble in our knee that keeps us on the ground for a short while. 8th on the list is how Steve Nash pops his nose back in. A player's reaction to an injury is occasionally more upsetting than seeing it happen to them, just like when Derek Fisher punched Steve Nash in the nose, leaving him with a protruding nose from his face. As cameras get a close-up of him, Nash takes his nose and pops it back in himself, rather than moving to the sidelines, taking a seat, and waiting for it to settle back into place. You know, like a normal person would. When asked why he decided to pop his broken nose back into place less than 20 seconds after breaking it, Nash, a seasoned expert in broken noses, said, "While it was still new, I was attempting to move it. I know it becomes harder after it sets." Then we have devastating injuries like when Tony Allen should not have dunked. Poor choices might occur sometimes, but some can stay with someone for the rest of their lives. One of the latter is this. Tony Allen decides to engage in showboating the situation, and what transpires is truly something he will never forget. He moves a bit too far forward on the strength of his momentum, landing awkwardly on his knee, which causes it to collapse under him. As a result of the ruptured ACL and months of therapy to get back on the court, he suffered a significant loss of mobility and flexibility in that knee. Every injury is a bummer, but this one is extremely unlucky. Allen fortunately discovered a bright spot that improved him as a player. I reflect on it while I'm outside, but it did help shape who I am as a person. The reason was that, at the time, I believed I was someone's franchise's future superstar. I became a glue person as a result though, perform all intangible and similar tasks. Ray Allen's eye injury is up next. Depending on the quality of the 1080 HD footage, certain injuries may appear better or worse, but until they're captured in a Zapruder-style photograph, some don't give you the entire experience. To put it simply, I feel that way about this famous Ray Allen injury. Although this incident occurred while he was still a college student, I find it impossible to ignore it when discussing such topics since it is repulsive. Ray gets stabbed in the eye, which causes his eye to become dislocated, and you can see it protruding out of its socket. It always gives me goosebumps. Then, Andrew Bogut's elbow comes in at number 5. The injury occurs when Andrew Bogut's arm is awkwardly wrapped up behind him as he falls to the ground in a heap. It's one of the more recent and painful-looking ones in recent years. Bogut gets knocked out abruptly, and without notice, at around the 42nd point. You can already tell it was unpleasant, but you won't understand how awful it was until you see the video. The outcomes were a shattered hand, a sprained wrist, and a dislocated elbow. It forced him to miss the entire season 2 years ago. Finally, we have the top 4 devastating injuries in NBA history. Jamal Crawford's neck breaks his fall is 4th on the list. It was one of those injuries when everyone falls silent for a split second until they see him move again. When you see a man being carried away on a stretcher, you know something horrible has happened, but when they land squarely on their neck, it's even worse. Jamal was fortunate that all that had occurred to him was a sprained neck, and he was allowed to leave the hospital the following day. Everything was simply one of those circumstances that appeared so horrible that you couldn't help but feel bad for him. Next up is Marquise Daniels' head injury. Marquise Daniels' head jerks around and falls to the ground after a painful impact. Nothing, no rolling, writhing, or grabbing, just silent. Although it only had been a few minutes, it felt like forever. The time appears to pass like molasses, and the pundits begin to speak in a gloomy, something horrible is occurring tone. It seems like everyone is assuming the worst for Daniels. Finally, after what feels like the whole of Titanic, Daniels moves a little bit, at least letting us know he's still alive. As a result, Daniels received a bruised spine, and everyone in attendance was terrified. The second injury is the punch. Whether or not it was fair, this was the punch that made legends, and Kermit Washington would carry it with him for the rest of his life. The Los Angeles Lakers and Houston Rockets got into a little conflict, and Rudy Tomjanovich came racing in as Washington was standing near the main fight, just protecting his men. Tomjanovich's head bounces off the court as a result of Washington rearing back in one instant and unleashing on his face. Tomjanovich was bleeding profusely, and Kermit shattered Rudy's face. In sports history, there haven't often been blows this crushing. The injury that tops this list is Sean Livingston's knee. Unfortunately, someone has removed all Sean Livingston's videos from legitimate video players on the internet. Livingston's knee dramatically deviates from how knees should bend, making matters worse, and the blasted thing folds beneath him, and in an instant, a brilliant career is ended before it starts. Livingston and his afro were sidelined in 2007 due to the injury. He wouldn't play again until the final few months of the 2009 campaign, after being signed separately by Miami and Oklahoma City. In 2011, he would play his first near full season with the Charlotte Bobcats, when even he was content to put on that outfit. That's a wrap, guys. Do you think Karl-Anthony Towns will find his groove after he returns from injury? And how long will that even take? Do you know of any devastating injuries that should be added to the list? Please leave your thoughts in the section below, and follow us on YouTube for similar news. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any more content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.